maybe it was just written in the stars for J.J. Redick. You know, he's the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, Dan Hurley could have been, but we know it's going to be J.J. Redick officially. I think it's funny that we finally see that we see that the Lakers officially offered J.J. Redick the job today. Redick's your new head coach of the Lakers. What does this mean for Bronny James? Because J.J.'s in business with LeBron. They're partners on a media company. They've got the podcast going on. And his name's been out there for a long time. And then we saw Dan Hurley get involved. And then now it ends up still being J.J. Redick. Is this Bronny to the Lakers? Because you have Rich Paul, Clutch Sports, saying that it's not necessarily a package deal where LeBron's going to go wherever Bronny ends up. If that's true, Bronny James could be with the Phoenix Suns, potentially with the Minnesota Timberwolves, based on some new info that Rich Paul put out there. And it doesn't necessarily mean that LeBron James is opting out of his contract and he's going to end up following his son wherever, especially Phoenix, where Rich Paul has openly said LeBron's not going to play for the minimum deal, which would be the situation if he opts out of the one-year option and signs a free agent contract. To not get the 1 year, to not get the minimum offer as a veteran, he would have to do a sign and trade, which doesn't seem likely based on what Rich Paul is saying openly. J.J. Redick's the head coach of the Lakers. The Lakers have the 55th pick in the second round. They have pick 22. It seems like Ronnie's a second-round pick because of LeBron, but Rich Paul, surprisingly, is being very transparent with some of the comments being made to ESPN and to The Ringer. I'm surprised at how open and honest he is when he says that, hey, we don't need leverage. Meaning, if we wanted Bronny James to be a member of the Los Angeles Lakers, we would tell the Lakers, LeBron's going to opt into his 1 year veteran option if you draft Bronny James, and we have not done that. Do you believe him?
Well, I just want to be totally transparent here and be the first to acknowledge and to recognize Bronny James and congratulate him on his being a Los Angeles Laker. Congrats, Bronny. You made it.
Hey.
You've done it.
Let me read some of the quotes,
This move cements it. This guy is a Los Angeles Laker. Great job. You hired LeBron's, one of his good friends, podcast partner, investor in media together. You are an L.A. Laker. And let me cut to the BS of what Rich Paul is saying. Rich Paul, I don't know the name he used, Charles Covington. If Charles Covington was my client, I'd do the same thing. I would zero in on teams that are interested in what we want and have that player work out for them. Let me tell you what he's not telling you. If Bronny James was Charles Covington, the teams that would be interested in Charles Covington and want him would want him on a two-way contract.
At best.
And that's it, at best. So Rich Paul, being a good agent and representative of his client, would send Charles Covington to about 14 different NBA teams. What he's doing with Bronny James is solely because he is LeBron James' son. So he can do this because of his lineage. So now there are two teams that he's interested in. Why? Because LeBron knows these two teams are actually going to draft him and or sign him to a one-way contract. That's it. It's that simple. This is all BS. I'm sorry. But that's the way this game is played.
Well,
it's not like Charles Covington, this theoretical player that Rich Paul reps.
Here's Rich Paul discussing this with ESPN yesterday. Quote, LeBron is off the idea of having to play with Bronny. If he does, he does. But if he doesn't, he doesn't. There's no deal made that it's guaranteed that if the Lakers draft Bronny at 55, he will re-sign, speaking of LeBron. If that was the case, I would force them to take him at 17. We don't need leverage. The Lakers can draft Bronny if LeBron doesn't re-sign. Well, the thing is, LeBron doesn't have to re-sign until after the NBA draft, which is a week from yesterday, Wednesday and Thursday. the deadline for LeBron to opt into the extra year, the player option, I believe is Friday or Saturday. So he gets the view of what happens over the course of the NBA draft. Of course, as an agent, you can say this. Quote, LeBron is also not going to Phoenix on a minimum deal. We can squash that right now. It doesn't mean that they're ruling out LeBron to the Phoenix Suns because the Suns cannot, based on just the rules of the CBA, give him the $100 million plus contract that the Lakers can, because the only way they can do it is with a sign and trade. So on the free agent market, he can make more certain places. He can't do that in Phoenix. He can make the most with Los Angeles if he signs the extension with LA. But that's challenging if you're trying to do anything other than the veteran minimum, which LeBron, and through his agent, is saying they're not going to do. So that paired with the sign and trade, paired with, the likelihood that it's the Lakers or bust for Bronny and LeBron to play together. Keep this also in mind. Bronny's also rejected workouts through Rich Paul with a number of clubs. Specifically, he's only worked out with the Lakers and the Suns. And Rich Paul, who's, again, been very honest about this, said that, hey, this is nothing new with my clients. The goal is to find a team that values your guy and to push him to get to where he's going to go. It's important to understand the context and to realize that this has always been the strategy with many of my clients throughout the years, especially those in need of development like Bronny. My stuff is by design. Well, it's by design that they're only working out for two. And then it's also by design who he mentions in here as part of the teams who could end up drafting Bronny. And I think it's just product placement for Phoenix and Los Angeles. Let me explain. Quote, there are other teams that love Bronny. For example, Minnesota, Dallas, Toronto. If it's not the Lakers, it will be someone else. No shit. Quote, Minnesota would love to get Bronny in, but I don't know who their owner is going to be. Nico Harrison is like an uncle to Bronny. He's talking about the Mavs general manager. If the Lakers don't take him at 55, Dallas would take him at 58 and give him a guaranteed deal. Why does he drop in Dallas at 58? Because the Lakers drafted 55. It's all about Los Angeles and Phoenix, the two teams that he's worked out for. Don't get it twisted. And LeBron James, while he's not going to take the minimum deal, they can absolutely do a sign and trade. But J.J. Redick to the Los Angeles Lakers today means less than a week from now, at 55, they're drafting Bronny James, and LeBron's going to play with his son. This is all posturing. This is to set up that LeBron didn't have anything to do with this, when back in 2022, he said it would be a dream to play with Bronny James, and more power to him. It's just that LeBron got this done, not Bronny.
Do you know who else is like an uncle to Bronny James? Rich Paul. He's like an uncle to him.
LeBron is like an uncle to Rich Paul. Let's get it right.
Relationship. Yeah. But, they're one and the same. They're tied at the hip, and he's the most powerful agent in the sport and a big-time power broker across the NBA. Again, everything he said is true. I'm not going to poke holes in what Rich Paul is saying about how he does business, how he represents clients, how he views Bronny James. What is being omitted from this argument is that Bronny James does not have this status of talking to two teams and or playing this game of he's got a lot of interest from these three or four other teams. It's only because he's LeBron's son. We all know this. If he's anyone else,
Jed,
with his track record, with what he did at USC, with who he is as an undersized two-guard prospect, he's not getting this attention. And that's what's not being said by Rich Paul.
He even goes on, Rich Paul, to say, hey, if the Raptors could take him at 31, sight unseen. Quote, workouts aren't everything for these teams. Then why have 10-plus other teams offered to work him out? And he hasn't worked out if they're not everything for these teams. Because the teams being mentioned that have not received a workout are used as leverage. Not telling the Lakers to take him at 17, but used as leverage for the Lakers to take him at 55. Just like they just hired LeBron James's head coach, J.J. Redick, today, officially the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Chad, they go from...
J.J. Redick will develop him. He will love him. He will nurture him. We will support him. This is what LeBron and everyone is saying. We are going to sign LeBron, and I don't care if Bronny misses his first 47 shots. as a pro. We will
No.
nurture
He won't
him.
miss 47. He's not
We
going
will
to
love
play.
him. We will develop him. He will get opportunities. It'll be a one-way contract. We will do all of this. And J.J. Redick is sitting there across the – I don't know how they do these interviews. If it's a table, if it's a desk, if it's a boardroom, J.J. Redick is saying, yes, ma'am.
It is a player's –
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It is a player's draft because it's a role player's draft. That's what I sense from the fact that this has all been going on.
Let's just call it what it is. It's a pretty shitty draft, top to bottom.
That's what I just said. It's just a role player's draft.
Whatever. I mean,
it's not a star-studded draft. No, it's a role player's draft.
Draft this guy who has earned.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
has earned it in college that you have seen more of, but he might be a terrible NBA player versus this guy who we know is going to be a terrible NBA player in Bronny James.